to the bold analysis. Do you know why the Adani deal, which was a hot topic in Kenya in September, went silent? The Adani deal went silent because Law Society of Kenya and aviation workers went to court and they sued government, and they were able to get a conservatory order stopping the Kenya Kwanza administration from engaging in any negotiation with the airport dealer. And at the time they secured that conservatory order, and the Kenya Aviation Workers is actually being represented by Kalonzo Musyoka and Eugene Wamalwa. So if you saw a time when Kalonzo and Eugene Wamalwa were in court, they were actually representing Kenya Aviation Workers in that case. So in September it took a hold because the government was also occupied by the strategy of the project of removing Rigathi Gachagua. But if you have been following Parliament sessions when they invite the cabinet secretaries, you will understand that the Nairobi team have been running a well-oiled campaign to give Adani company a clean bill of health. And this is done by the broad-based administration. This confirms that probably the respective stakeholders are actually fine-tuning the deal, awaiting the legal proceedings, awaiting the fate of the litigation going on in court. By the time this court order was given, I want to believe even government was in support of that court order. They even themselves, they are procuring that court order because the discussion had gotten to Wanjiko and the emotions had been wiped. The emotions of the public were so clear that strategic asset like JKIA is actually being sold. And the position was that the government was not so clear they were not so intentional on explaining or rather revealing all the details of the deal. However, in an interesting twist, even after government spent all the time raising their hopes and of course sanitizing Adani, the United States of America is raising a multi-billion corruption case against the Asian conglomerate with investments in areas of energy, ports, media, and minerals. And that story is going to form the basis of this analysis, that while we're giving them a clean bill of health, US is actually leaking a report about corruption on Adani. I don't want you to miss that, but allow me to take a second to remind you to subscribe to our channel. We are heading to 100,000 subscribers very fast. We are heading there. So as we talk now, we have 95,600 subscribers. So we need 93,600. So we need 6,400 subscribers to hit 100,000. Imagine the gap between us and 100,000 is that your subscription that is still pending. So check the red button there, subscribe. It's actually free of charge. So you'll not be charged any shilling because you've subscribed to the channel. And of course, very significant is an assurance that your email is safe. And because on our end, we cannot be able to access your email. But the only advantage of subscribing is that you will not miss our analysis. Whenever we publish a video, you'll get notification. And so because when you become a frequent viewer, you'll always get notified and you will not miss any of our well-researched exclusive videos. So make sure you subscribe, guys, so that we can build this great brand. I want us to start with this, and I want us first to demonstrate how the government of Kenya and the broad-based administration had been coming out to defend Adani deal. You'll see Opondo Kaluma, the new defense William Ruto's defenseman, defending Adani. And if you want to know, government had high stakes in this. Even Raila Odinga, I've always said that the deal between Raila and Ruto was transactional. Even Raila, in the midst of AUC campaign, he had to take a break and campaign and say that Adani deal is actually a good deal for the country and Adani is a clean. So even the opposition have given them a clean bill of health.
Good governance, Honorable Speaker, integrity, transparency and accountability has been adhered to through the conduct of due diligence, which has revealed that, like we found out up to the time where we got the orders, that Adani has not been debarred by any country. There has not been engagement in acts of corruption that we so far found it in due diligence, is not insolvent, is tax compliant in all jurisdictions in which it has local tax presence, is not a default on payment of social security and employment benefits, and its directors or officers have not been convicted of any criminal offense related to professional conduct within a period of 5 years preceding the submission of the proposal, and have not otherwise been disqualified pursuant to administrative suspension or debarment proceeding.
Come, throwing rumors there about entities which should be investing in our country. And that is the platform of public-private partnerships. The idea that we don't have our own money to do everything in terms of development you want to do. And so we invite people who can invest and benefit the public as we go along. Honorable Speaker, even if it were to be said that this company had a problem in some country, as leaders it can only alert us to secure our deal and to secure our national interest better. So this rumor mongering, Honorable Speaker, I wanted to request you that having been confirmed, and it is very unfortunate, Honorable Speaker, that Honorable Muriu, who is a prominent lawyer, senior lawyer, can come before this August House with newspaper cuttings whose motive you never know. From Wamunyoro, I don't know what
Wamunyoro is. You see, there have been quite a bit of innuendos about Adani. And I've explained that this is a reputable company, by my knowledge. And this company actually has done very many PPP projects. I mentioned that we visited India, the invitation of then Chief Minister of State of Gujarat, Narendra Modi. And he introduced us to several Indian conglomerates. Adani was one of them. One was Mr. Ratan Tata, who was also there at the conference that we attended. And then we visited a project that was done through a PPP by Adani in a place called Mundra. This was a marsh land next to the sea, 5,000 hectares of land, which was granted to the Adanis by the government of Mr. Modi. They drained the swamp and constructed a deep sea port to import coal from Indonesia. And then they put up a power plant, coal-fired, 4,600 megawatts in that place. The Tata Group then also came and put up another second power plant.
Those are your leaders. That is what your leaders are telling you about Adani deal. Now, let's look at this US story. And that's what I'm saying. US is actually throwing Adani under the bus. Billionaire Gautam Adani indicted in a New York on bribery charges. I want us to look at the nature of these charges, and because it will help us to mirror whether I've heard that is Opodo Kaloma saying that if in any case that firm is engaged in some malpractices, then it's just a wake-up call for Kenya to tighten the loopholes of it getting a raw deal, but not cancelling Adani deal. You'll be told, we are going Adani way because we want to free up money. You know, we have tax constraints, so the tax we collect, we only want to use it for budgetary support, but then we get into PPP with multi-billion companies like Adani so that they can take care of our strategic infrastructure. That is the line. This story emanated from Bloomberg. Indian billionaire Gautam Adani and other executives were indicted in New York for roles in a multi-billion-dollar scheme, the US Department of Justice said Wednesday. Authorities said Adani, and I want you to get this part, Adani and 7 other senior business executives, including his nephew Sagar Adani, promised more than $250 million in bribes to Indian government officials to secure solar energy contracts. Those bribes were to lie. Now, why did they take those bribes? Those bribes were to lie to investors and banks to raise billions of dollars and to obstruct justice, said the Deputy Assistant Attorney General Lisa Miller in a statement Wednesday. I will explain more about this. Why did they lie? Why did they lie about this? Despite the fact that Adani is actually listed as one of the second richest person behind countryman Mukesh Ambani, that is according to Bloomberg's Billionaire Index, he's the founder of the spiraling Indian conglomerate Adani Group. The solar energy supply contracts were projected to raise around 2 million euros in profits after tax, an approximately 20-year period. Authorities said Adani personally met with Indian government official to advance himself to advance on the scheme, which took place between 2020 and 2024. It's the same time. The defendants frequently met and discussed the bribery scheme, including evidence on several phones. Some of the documentation included cell phone to extensively track specific details on the bribes, a photograph of document summarizing various bribe amounts, and PowerPoint and Excel analysis that summarize various options for paying and concealing bribe payments, the department said in the US. Why did they need bribe? You need to listen to this part. Adani and his associates tried to hide these bribery schemes from the US investors in order to obtain financing, including to fund those solar energy supply contracts procured through bribery. This is what they're saying. So they wanted to get contracts in their own country, India. They had to bribe. So even before we go into the intention of bribing, how about Kenya? Ili ni nchi yao. That is their country. They still have to part with a bribe. In Kenya, for us to give them the contracts in JKIA, they are in the Ministry of the Power Supply, and they're also linked to the Isha one. Do you think there was no bribe? Because bribe is looking here as as one of the things that they are using to persuade governments. Now, look at the reason why they were bribing. They were bribing in India, but they were hiding those details And they went to the US to seek money from investors so that they can invest in that project. So that debunks the whole story that Kenya Kwanza, the team, have been saying that these are billionaires with their money, they just want to bring and pump their money. No, they don't have money to come and pump. They will also go and look for money from other investors to come and invest in the project. This is an eye-opening story. It is said that Adani is seen as a close ally of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and began his career in diamond trading. So in its investigation, the Bloomberg is actually reporting a high-profile corruption of bribery in India for Adani to secure those deals. And they got into an unholy alliance with officials, of course, to get favorable documents so that they can present to investors in US to get money so that they can invest in the project. I want to tell you that the oligarchs in Nairobi, the termites that are out of woodwork to feast on this deal, and the Nairobi team who believe they have the monopoly of the truth, they will be quick to brush off these claims as mere propaganda. I'm making a projection. US, and this story, if you visit CNN, Bloomberg, and all the other newspapers, all the other news outlets in the US, this story is making headline there. But the Nairobi team, and I'm yet to see how the Nairobi team reacts, because just today, Waziri, not today, I think the day before yesterday, was it on Wednesday? I know, last week. Waziri Churchill was just defending Adani here, saying that Adani has a clean bill of health. I can remember Amenya, the whistleblower who raised this story. You know, this is Adani's story, did not come from media. It came from private citizen based in France. He already did this story for 1 month until the media can pick this story. And it's one of the stories that have been executed by citizen journalists, not citizen TV. Citizen journalism, not the mainstream one. So the mainstream picked this story from Nelson Amenya, who is based in the US, and things have also not been good on his end since this story came out. Why Kenya must be alert? Instead of brushing off this story, how I wish that it serves as an eye-opener. Why? Because there was a story, unsubstantiated, there was an unconfirmed story that Adani is broke and wanted to use the JKIA title deed to acquire a loan for the project. And the government said, no, that is not part of the deal. That story was there. It's time to ask ourselves the uncomfortable questions. You also need to ask yourself this. Adani cut off, now this is confirmed. This one is in the newspapers, if you check you will get. This one is online. Adani cut off power supply in some parts of Bangladesh over some unpaid dues. That tells you how it can destabilize the country. We also need to ask ourselves some very uncomfortable questions. And this story was done by Kenyans.co yesterday, Kenyans newspaper, story newspaper here, that I just want to get it. Passenger arrivals at JKIA and Moi International dropped as per KNBS. What is that story reading? The number of visitors arriving at Kenya's main airports declined in September. This is the time this topic was a hot potato, in September 2024. This is according to a latest leading economic indicator report by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. The decline occurs against the backdrop of ongoing controversy over airport management, with tensions persisting between government and the Indian conglomerate Adani Group, a focal point of the dispute. So, already it is already causing issues. Some countries are feeling like it might bring protest, and so people fear repercussions on the deal on the flights, cost of flights. Remember, the fellows are looking for some monopoly, and in part of that deal they have said there is no any other airport yenye itatengenezwa yenye itakuwa that Kenya cannot get into another PPP probably now to help boost Nairobi International Airport, Kisumu International Airport, or even Wilson, or even Mombasa. While now that also have some effect. Now, those are some uncomfortable questions, but this US story is directly sending a message to Nairobi. It's sending to Nairobi officials that Adani deal is a mega corruption scandal that is shrouded in a lot of kickbacks and secret dealings. If they can secure this in US, and the US is actually saying that we are watching you, so we will be, I think Kenya-US ties are actually in limbo if this deal is forced through. And if they were able to investigate within that time and get the US intelligence in the country, US intelligence is probably trailing the kind of deals going on between Kenya, Kenya and the Adani deal. Adani is not a giant finance, it's not giant in finance investment to invest in these projects, because it has also been seen that probably they're also looking for different maneuvers to get finances. And the Kenyan media now is alert, because I think Kenyan media must also redefine the coverage of this Adani deal, because I think for September, when this story started, our media was running all these success stories of Adani, where that success is riddled with several scandals. In my email, I've really been receiving a couple of emails of some of Kenyans abroad really sharing intrigues about some information about this. And so, while we want to run the very beautiful stories just because the deal has brought money and people's pockets are now full, we must also be objective and read. I am waiting to see the Kenyan mainstream carrying that story as it is. They're not even changing a comma or a full stop. That is not their story. I'll check the Nation Standard and this and that and see what will they carry of that story. For me, I've done it this night. I know hawajamka wanalala, but by the time they wake up, I want to see how they'll cover this story, because that will actually pay a point, a very good point into how we want to interact or how we want to address this issue. Thank you.